Yeah, the baton has been handed over as we sprint into our track and field segment. We are only 2 days away from the start of the 19th edition of the World Athletic Championships set for the Hungarian capital, Budapest. We're happy to remind you that the home of champions will have live coverage of the event through a dedicated channel on the SportsMax app in 15 countries across the region. You can tune into the action. Viewers in Anguilla, Barbados, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, Dominica, Guyana, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, French and Dutch St. Martin, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Turks and Caicos Islands can watch through the SportsMax app. Also, in Trinidad and Tobago, you can watch on Biz TV. Already this week, we previewed the jumps, the throws and hurdles events, and now we'll take a crack at the middle distance and relays. Let's start with the relays, where Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago are the only English-speaking Caribbean nations to qualify teams. Our in-house track and field analyst, Leighton Levy, joins us. Very disturbing, this story about the number of CARICOM teams in the relays. My mind goes quickly to the Bahamas, who were gold medal winners at the Olympic Games in the recent past, if you consider Sydney the recent past, for the women in the sprint relays, and only London, the 4x4 men. So the Bahamian absence standing out.
Absolutely, and similarly Barbados to a lesser extent. You know, it's kind of disappointing because you saw a level of growth across the space in the Caribbean for the past few years. Of course, it was just 2017 that Trinidad and Tobago won the 4x4, for example, in the World Championships in London. So to not have that many relay teams going into the World Championships for this year, it's kind of disappointing. And I think the respective federations have a lot of work ahead of them, because track and field is one of the prominent sports in the Caribbean. That's where a lot of our athletes thrive. And I think those areas need to be strengthened. And it is very disappointing, because I was looking forward to seeing more teams from the region go up against the best in the world, because we have the talent here. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of then getting that talent to flourish. And we're not doing enough of that, I think.
Yeah, your thoughts of the medal hopes then for TNT and Jamaica in the relay events that they are contesting?
For TNT, I think the prospects are not very good. When I look at the 4x4 squad and the 4x1 squads that they have, they are not that good. I mean, with the exception of Jeremy Richards and the 4x4, the rest of the Trinidadian team, the team members are people running 46 to 47s all season long. To be at this level and to be competitive, you need to be at least 45 low to 44s.
But where have they gone wrong? Because Marshall Cedeno had been running 44s not too long ago, but his career has kind of plateaued.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of injury issues for him. I know he was training in the United States for a few years.
In Florida.
And but it's not been a very, very productive period for him. And you kind of feel for him, because when you consider that he was the fastest fourth place finisher ever in history at 44 flat. I think he's at 44.01. He's a way off that now, and it makes you wonder, because he's still a young man, and but in fact he's in his prime now as an athlete. So you would have hoped that he would have been able to continue at that level for much longer. But it's unfortunate. Injuries are part of the sport, but it seems to be afflicting a lot of Caribbean athletes more often than not these days. Because even when you look at Jamaica as well, Nathan Allen and Akeem Bloomfield, so promising just a few years ago at the University of Auburn, now are not even in the team anymore. And it makes you wonder what the process is when they go through these injuries in terms of the recovery process that would then get them back on track soon enough, but apparently it's not happening enough.
Yeah, and also just to add to the point of the Trinidad and Tobago issue, when you look at, for example, their 4x100 squad, their fastest two athletes this year, Keon Benjamin at 10.09 and Eric Harrison Jr. at 10.15, are not part of the relay pool. Understandably so, of course, because they were, I think, 6th and 8th at the national championships. And so what they go into Budapest with is a 5-man relay pool that includes Judah Taylor, who is also in the 4x4 setup, squad, Devin Augustine, a 10.18 man. And so you can't realistically see them pushing for a medal either at 4x1 or 4x4. And they will be hard-pressed, I think, Leighton, to even get into a final. So it is disappointing to see. And you spoke about Bahamas, you spoke about Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. But remember, it was only 2011 That's in Kitson Nevis won a bronze medal in the men's 4x100. So to only have Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica qualifying relay teams for the Worlds, I completely agree, is a little disappointing.
A lot of work needs to be done with the respective federations across the region. When you look at Trinidad, I mean, going back to Trinidad, this is a country that produced Mark Burns, Richard Thompson, a whole slew of men who were really fast. Keston Bledman.
Carl Grove.
It was not long ago. You're talking about
Daryl Brown.
Daryl Brown, you're looking at 2008 to 2012, that window where Trinidad was in every 100-meter final at the World or the Olympic final, or the championships, and it makes you wonder why things have gone so badly. I know Atta used to complain a lot about it. I still does, I suppose. But I'm sure that there's new leadership now at the NCAAs. Of course, Mr. Commission, you certainly have a task ahead of you to get Trinidad back on the map, because this is a country blessed with talent. You know, you're talking about Kellyanne Baptiste, looking at Michelle Lee Aye, a lot of talent coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. Mark Burns, I mentioned Mark Burns, but you're talking about not Keston Bledman. Keyshawn Walcott as well. So there is talent in Trinidad. It's just about what has gone wrong, why the consistency, we're not seeing the consistency anymore.
So I guess we're down to Jamaica then, Leighton. How many relay medals do you expect Jamaica to get?
I think Jamaica can medal in all of the relays this year.
Really?
Yes.
Including the mixed?
Yeah, because here's the thing. When you look at the mixed relay lineup with the much talked about Rashid McDonald, who is the fastest Jamaican in the world this year, 44.03. If he brings that kind of form into that relay, along with Stacey Ann Williams and, of course, DeAndre Anderson, you know, I think, you know, you're looking at, of course, Natalia Gould is also in the mix as well. Kadrian Golston and John Reed, both of them.
But let's just make the point that Kadrian Golston is in the mixed relay pool, but understand he is a 100 man, run, and really he's only in this pool as really cover for the 4x100. He is not going to run the mixed relay. So let's just get that out there.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think even if you use Natalia Gould in the heats, I think it's a strong enough team to get into the final. And one of the things that getting there, though, they're going to have to run somewhere between 3:12 and 3:13 to be, you know, to have a shot at a medal, because the Europeans are really strong in this event. And I think Jamaica has the wheels to be able to do it.
Well, let me say this, Leighton. The pool that I just saw, if the 4 for the preliminary round is coming only from that pool, then I suspect we will struggle to get to the final. That's how I see it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one.
Of course you are. You already did.
Because the thing is, Jamaica's best time this year in the mixed relay is 3:19, but that team was extraordinarily weak.
Yes.
Okay? This is a much stronger team.
Yes.
And I think...
Is it really? Here's the issue I have, Leighton. Joanne Reid has gone through an extremely long NCAA season. She hasn't run since the Nationals. You can't be certain of what type of form she's in, and I wouldn't be surprised if she turns up and she is not in great form. Natalia Gould is there, yes. Natalia Gould has great heart, and yes.
And she's won 51 this year.
Well, let's see. I just think you're going to need more than that. And then you have, you have Rashid McDonald, but DeAndre Anderson falls into the same category of a Joan Reid, where he's had an extremely long NCAA season. And I fully expect that when he turns up at the World Championship, he's going to be far below his best. I would be surprised if he produces the type of form that he did in the semifinals of the Nationals. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, and you would not be out of place to have that opinion. I just think that with the rest that they've had the last month, and of course I know they're training and I know they're being conditioned, it's 2 races. It's one in the morning and then the final is in the evening. So it's not like it's going to be protracted over a couple of days where the fatigue factor will carry over. It's 2 races, one in the morning, one in the evening. I think both Joanne Reid and Anderson will have enough in their legs to get through to the final, and having gotten there with the rounds in the morning triggering, you know, muscle memory is a hell of a thing. And I think, given what we've seen them do all season, John Reid ran a brilliant leg for Arkansas at the NCAA championships in June. And I think, given the rest that they have had, and the fact that, based on what we heard from the coaches at Arkansas, that they were being prepared with the World Championships in mind, I think they'll be fresh enough to run 3:14 and probably a bit faster.
We're fast running out of time, but I have to answer this one. Do you believe it is too much to ask the top quarter milers to run the mixed, even if it's only one round of the mixed 4x4, their individual events, and then return and run the normal 4x4?
It might not be too much.
Is that too much?
But you're taking a risk there with potential injury. And remember, this is probably the strongest 400-meter team that Jamaica has put together in a long while, right? 3 guys.
For men?
For men, yeah. For the women, it's middling. But for the men, it's the strongest team that Jamaica has put out in a long time. Do you want to risk that? A potential medalist in the final, given that Michael Norman is not going to be there this year. And the field are outside of Stephen Gardner and Wade Van Niekerk. Nobody is out of reach of the other Jamaicans in this lineup. Sean Bailey, Antonio Watson, and of course, if they manage to put Rashid McDonald in there. The thing is, I think the men's team, I think, is pretty strong, and I think they'll contend for a silver medal. The women's team, I think, can contend for a silver medal as well, given the fact that the USA is not as strong without Sidney McLaughlin, without Abby Steiner, who just did surgery, without Athing Mu, who might not show up for the championships any at all. I think the United States are vulnerable. And while vulnerable, they're still a pretty strong team. Yeah. I mean, you still have Britton Wilson and others. But I think Jamaica is in line for a silver medal, notwithstanding the Dutch team or Poland, who has 352 women on their team. I think Jamaica can do well to finish with a silver medal.
10 seconds. How will the 4x1s go?
I think Jamaica has a shot at silver medal in the 4x1 men and in the women. I don't think we are strong enough to win the 4x1 women, given what the USA has. We blew an opportunity last year with some poor baton changes because I don't think they spent enough time practicing. Had they done that, they would have won easily in Oregon. This year, the team is not as strong.
Yeah, one more on the middle
Will they
distance.
practice, though?
Yeah.
Will they practice properly?
That's the thing.
Because if they do, they have a shot.
Yeah, because the thing is, in the last few years, we haven't seen, it doesn't seem as if there's been much focus on practicing. Yes. And I think it has manifested itself in competition.
Some would say that the Americans are practicing too much. They're now getting into each other's way. Fights at camps.
Yeah, well, that's another drama as well. Yeah,
is this the year for Natoya Gould? Because you're fast running out of time in the 800.
It could be. What we're seeing from her all season is that she's trending to run faster as the championships approach. And I think when I had a chat with her earlier this season, and we had her on set here a couple of weeks ago, I think they've finally worked a strategy that I think could work in her benefit. And I think with more out of the 800 possibly, and when you look at the field, she's the 4th fastest in the world this year. I think if she runs a good strategic race, she could end up on the podium.
All right, so Levy is saying the Jamaicans will medal in all 5 relays. I'm not quite sure. I say no to the mixed. Hey.
I think they will.
Mixed reactions, mixed views. Let's take a break. Come back with more on the SportsMax Zone.